A. The 24th Amendment put a ban on any poll tax in elections for federal officials in January 1964. B. Black codes. Laws passed that limited newly freed men's rights and liberties, led to foundation of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments that made slavery illegal, provided equal protection, and gave men the right to vote. C. Civil Rights Act of 1965, an act to outlaw all discrimination and unequal treatment. D. Disenfranchisement, the act of taking away the right to vote from a certain group of people. Examples of this are literacy tests, poll taxes, and the Grandfather Clause, which stopped blacks from voting. E. Executive Order 9981, Truman's order to desegregate the armed forces and led to blacks and whites fighting side by side in the Korean War and every war after that. F. Freedom Riders, a group of students who attempted to ride public buses from D.C. through the South to test whether or not the ruling of the Supreme Court that buses must be integrated was being enforced. G. George Wallace, governor of Alabama who supported segregation. H. Harlem Renaissance, music and literature movement which celebrated black culture, led by people like Langston Hughes and Duke Ellington, led to a rise in black power and pride. I. Ida B. Wells, journalist who worked to get federal anti-lynching laws passed. J. Jim Crow laws in the South during the late 1800s through the 1950s which segregated public facilities such as bathrooms, schools, and waiting rooms, led to blacks not being treated equally, even as simple as farming. Blacks had to do sharecropping while whites could just farm. K. The KKK, extreme movement to get rid of anybody that wasn't a white Christian. They targeted Jews, blacks, immigrants, and Catholics. L. Little Rock Nine. The Little Rock Nine were 9 high school students that, through Brown v. Board, attended a primarily white school. Eisenhower helped get them protection so they could attend school safely. MLK Jr. He led the Montgomery bus boycott for nearly a year, despite his home being bombed and churches set on fire. N. Nixon used the FBI to investigate and bring down the Black Panthers with spies and raids because it was seen as threatening America. O. Orville Faubus, the governor of Arkansas who was against the Little Rock Nine and integrating schools. P. Plessy v. Ferguson, case that ruled segregation is constitutional as long as it is separate but equal. Q. Quality. JFK wanted equal quality of life for all people, no matter race or religion. R. Racial riots. Several violent riots in major cities throughout the late 60s and early 70s. S. Segregation. Segregation was a violation of African Americans' civil rights, took away their civil liberties, and for those who attempted to take action against it, they were arrested for civil disobedience. T. Thurgood Marshall, lawyer for the NAACP in the case Brown v. Board. U. Unfair treatment. The unfair treatment of African Americans led to sit-ins, such as the Greensboro sit-in and the SNCC at Shaw University in downtown Raleigh. V. Voting Rights Act of 1965, law that outlawed literacy tests and allowed the federal government to protect areas that had history of disenfranchisement caused by the Selma March. W. W.E.B. Du Bois believed that higher education was the key to equality. Another advocate for educational equality is Booker T. Washington. X. Malcolm X believed in black supremacy and separation of the races, later believed in integration and equality by any means necessary. Y. Year. The Freedom Summer was in 1964. It was a movement by African Americans to get more African Americans to vote down south. Z. Zora Neale Hurston. She wrote the award-winning novel Their Eyes Were Watching God.